Hello, everyone, and welcome back to All Indie. Today we have another dev talk. I'm joined by Lina, the developer of the therapy game that you see here on screen. Lina, you want to tell me a little bit about yourself?
Hello, happy to be here. I'm Lina and I'm from Sweden originally, but I'm now living in Argentina where I make little games in my spare time, sort of in between work and such. So this is my second game that I think will be published, and I've been making games since 2018 or so.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you have almost 3 years of experience.
Well, more or less, because I mean I had a kid in between, so that kind of ate up a bunch of my time, but been like a whole of 2 years, but would say about 2 years ish of experience.
Okay. That's awesome. This is your second game. That's really cool. What's your favorite game to play, or just of all time?
Ooh, of all time, I don't know. Uh, I feel inspired by lots. Like as a kid, Ocarina of Time, the Zelda game was really big, and I think that's influenced me a lot. That I keep this low poly style. That the Nintendo 64 was like my big console as a kid.
Yeah.
So I played a lot of those games. So that influenced me a lot. But recently, I would say maybe Firewatch was really cool to me. That was one of those games that I really stuck out to me. And also Gone Home, I remember I really enjoyed and felt it was a very different game.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
quite honestly, yeah, I love that game. Yeah, I know I don't have a console or anything, so it's I've been less gaming these last couple of years actually.
Sure.
Uh, so it's more from my teenage years that I have influences.
Oh, okay. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you got to take a break.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm more of a creator than a player in that sense, but I love games.
So, this game was done in Unity, right? And you did like all the artwork and all the programming and stuff behind it?
Yeah, I always do everything. I don't. I love to collaborate. I did a little project before this one with a friend, but I felt like was less pressure when I have when it's only me doing everything, sort of. So I don't have the pressure of delivering for someone else. So because of that, I switched to making this game by myself instead.
Oh,
So
okay.
I do every aspect of it.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you and I had kind of talked a little bit before the interview. Is game development a hobby, or I think you said you do animation? Like, is there a little bit of uh uh correlation between gaming and what you do professionally, or?
Yeah, we have me and my husband, we run an animation studio, and that is, we do CG animation, 3D animation, and that is there's a big overlap with the gaming industry. But none of us have actually done that. We've done commercials and movies and such. We haven't worked on any bigger games or anything like that. So games was something that I picked up after I moved here to Argentina. I didn't have a lot to do in the beginning. So then I started to make a game just to explore it because I was interested in learning it. And then it's something that I've kept doing because I really like the community and I really like the creative outlet that it is.
Yeah. Wow. So I so then I'm assuming you did the animations in this game uh by yourself, or did your husband help you?
No, no, he's not helping with anything. It's just me. I think he would want it to be way better than it is if he was to help. So it's just me, so I can keep it to a kind of modest level, so to speak, that is suitable to me, what I want to achieve.
Sure. So since you're doing all aspects of this game, which one would you say is the hardest for you? I don't imagine that the artwork and the animation side is very difficult. But how much like coding have you learned to make this game work? Is that difficult?
Um, I don't think that the coding is, to me, I would say it's the graphic design that's the hardest, to get the UI and such to work smoothly. That is something that whenever I make something, I feel like that is the thing that makes it look the most amateur. But the code is something that is quite straightforward. It either works or it doesn't. Of course, you can optimize it and such, but that is more like a puzzle that you can solve, whereas these more graphical aspects are harder to nail because it's a lot about feeling and things that I don't necessarily tune into very well almost.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a good point. I always felt like UI stuff was more testing and making sure that it looks good rather than, yeah, like you said, like the puzzle that is coding, like a problem you can solve.
yeah, you know where you want to go sort of with coding, whereas with the graphical aspects, it has to work on different platforms, it has to look good on different screens and in different settings, and yeah, no, that is something that I struggle a lot with.
Right. So I thought when I first saw this game, I thought you were playing as the patient versus playing as the therapist. Um,
Ah.
and this question is kind of leading up to a bigger, more general question. What made you want to go that route, playing as the therapist versus as the patient? I guess.
Oh, well, I think that I thought that the therapist, in a way, is like a like a detective in that sense. So I thought it would make like a good detective game, sort of. Um, that because I've been reading a lot about personality and things like that, and how a therapist helps someone sort of discover things about themselves, and how you do that by sort of decoding what someone is saying. So I thought that it would be interesting to play as a therapist and do that to discover and sort of by asking questions lead to the bigger issues.
Oh wow. I I didn't think of it that way. That's a really good point. So what are your future plans for the game?
Well, I'm very early on in the game. It's only been, I think, 2 months that I worked on it so far.
Two
So I only
months?
have this. Yeah, and it's not been full time, so it's got a lot of. It's only this part with the therapy sessions that is working at the moment, and I
Wow.
want it to be a lot. Well, I'm glad you're impressed because I feel like it's very little, but uh,
I think this is a good. I mean, if this is something that you're doing in your spare time when you want to, when you can, like for 2 months, I feel like this is a lot. I feel like this is a good amount.
oh well, thank you. That gives me some hope to finish it. uh, because no, I do want to have more of a world. That's what I'm working on now. That you can actually walk around in this town and meet these people outside of therapy as well, and have more of a bigger story surround. But I wanted to have this sort of core part of the game working first. I
Sure.
focused on that.
Okay. So if you had a team to help you with this game and like the biggest budget you could ever ask for, um, would the game change much, or what would you need help with? How would it improve?
I think I would probably uh, outsource like things like music and graphics. I think I would get a lot more help. But I do think that it would look and feel very differently. It would be less of my game and maybe more of its own in a way. I I never even think of how it would be to make something in that scale. So it's hard to imagine. I don't think it would be at all the same. Uh, but it probably would be better in some sense, but maybe also less what I wanted to be in a way.
Sure.
I do like this part of with the indie game that it doesn't have to be appealing to everyone. That I can focus on a niche group that will like it. Like it, this is not a game for everyone. This is maybe if you're interested in psychology and such. So I think if there was a bigger budget and more people involved, that maybe naturally become wider.
Oh, sure. Okay. So this is something that I've been kind of curious about, and this is something that Emily and I, that's my girlfriend, and I have been talking about. How much of this game is like maybe a learning tool for therapists and maybe patients, and how much of it is like a like a game? I mean, is there an aspect of this game in which you kind of hand it over to an organization and you're like, hey, here's how you sit down with somebody with anxiety? Is there a portion of that of the game that could be like that?
I mean, I think there's some ambition to have it like that. I have been talking to some psychiatrists about how to make sure that I keep it sort of realistic. Uh, and I'm reading a lot of books to do sit down therapy with, so because I really do want to have it as realistic as possible. So I think that maybe if you're a student or such, that it could be used ideally as a learning tool too. But that is not my goal. My goal is for it to be perhaps educational for regular people and not necessarily those that work in the field. But ideally, they would feel like it's something that reflects their work as well.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you kind of talked about that you're working on a world right now for these characters. Can you talk a little bit about that and kind of what you would do in the world?
Yes, so the idea is that there will be this world where these people live, um, where you can walk around in between. In the beginning, you will not have that many clients, so you will have a lot of time to just go around and get to know these characters. And then later on, you will go and see what their deeper issues are in therapy. Uh, so I want to build up a mystery in that sense that you meet these people or these animals in this case, and uh, and you get a sort of sense of them, and you can perhaps tell that something is off, but not know what. And then when they get into therapy, you get to unwind and see that okay, well, this is what's been bothering you and such. So I think to be this is funny, but I was playing Animal Crossing, and I always thought that it would be so interesting to get to know these animals further, and that was a big inspiration for this game. That I wanted to. You have this neighborhood, but you only get to know them very shallowly. So I would like to get deeper into these characters games. That's where the idea from.
Wow, okay. Yeah. That's really awesome. Uh so was Animal Crossing kind of a big inspiration for you to make this game?
Yes, yeah, definitely. This sort of little neighborhood and getting to know and the talk-based thing that Animal Crossing, and also like BoJack Horseman is a big inspiration.
Really?
Obvious.
BoJack?
Well, yeah, these sort of animal characters with deep psychological issues, I guess.
I I've seen a few episodes. I feel like that is a very that's not an example that I would have thought of, but that is a very accurate and precise example.
Yeah, well, hopefully, it won't, I don't want to go that dark, maybe, but
Right.
yeah, no. But I do like the mood of animals being like these serious representations of humans.
Sure. So, okay, so probably some fun questions here. Have any of your family members or friends have they played your demo?
My dad has. He's a huge gamer, so he always gets to bug test everything I do. So he's tried it and he's made sure that everything pans out in demo. But it's very little to play at the moment. It's one session client.
That's awesome. The fact that he's The fact that he's there to play test for you is really cool.
No, absolutely. My family, my with my first game that I published, I think my parents were the most. They played it the very most. They got to the latest levels and got all the achievements and such. My aunts and my uncles, my whole family were very much supportive in my first
Wow,
game. And this one too, I think.
that's awesome. I didn't realize they would be achievement hunters. I was not expecting that.
Oh no, in this one, I don't know if you can call them achievements. I guess that is to get a good reputation. But in my previous game, there was such things that my family played.
Awesome. That's awesome. That is really cool. So I do have at least I have one personal question for you if you don't mind. Um, since this game is about therapy, I mean, did you start this game because you or a friend or like a family member couldn't go to therapy, or maybe they wanted to and just didn't have the time?
Um, no, it's more that I have a general interest in this. I would say I've to be honest, I've actually never been in therapy myself, but I have friends and family that have been, and I can see that it's benefited them a lot. So it's something that I want to bring out to the mainstream, bring out as something positive. But no, I'm from Europe where it's very accessible.
That yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, it's sad that it's not like.
Oh, I'm sorry, you cut out there.
No, no, I'm sorry, it's not like that everywhere, and I won't say it's perfect in Sweden either, but I think it's fairly accessible.
Right. Well, so you do currently live in Argentina, and I thought we could go over a couple of maybe like country specific questions just to see how this game would impact countries that maybe have a harder time with access to therapists. Um,
Hmm.
what is the process like in Argentina to go see a therapist or even maybe a doctor or a general physician?
Uh, it is very accessible. Everyone has access to it. Though I will say there are usually a lot. It's under a lot of pressure, the system. So there might be a lot of waiting lines, etc. But it is accessible. And actually, Argentina is the one country in the world that has the most psychoanalysts still, which is doesn't exist anywhere else almost. So that is fun. That is even something that they're still pursuing very much here. So
Oh wow, I didn't know
it's
that.
no, it's a strange thing, but it is very much encouraged here to go to analysts and things like that. So it's not completely foreign. But then, of course, it's a poor country. It's very much affected by economical crisis. So I don't know how many people in reality have access to it, but publicly supposed to.
Sure, yeah. Um, so is is mental health like a common problem in Argentina or even in from where you're from?
I don't think it's any more or less here than anywhere else. Uh, there are, I would say, here in Argentina, there are more economical crisis. There's been a lot of problems with that here that I guess could probably affect a lot of people's mental health. But I also think, at least in the part where I live, that there's a lot less stress. Like you have a siesta, you have a Sunday off, things like that. So which is not necessarily true in other places of the world. So I think it depends. I think it might be different kinds.
Okay.
And in Sweden, I think it's people are happy in general, but I know that there's a lot of talk that it's lots of depression, and it might be it's a dark place. So it might be that there's a little bit of that, but I honestly don't know.
That's fair. So I thought maybe one more question. How how I'm not really sure how to ask this question. Uh, how deep are these characters going to be in your world and their problems? I mean, I know we kind of joked about BoJack Horseman and like not getting that dark, but I mean,
Hmm.
how many? I don't want to say like disorders, but like, uh, are you going to include like anxiety and maybe panic attacks? Like how many of those are you going to include in this game?
Yeah, I will include these more common mental health issues like perhaps anger, anxiety, and certain phobias. But I will not go into things like psychopathy or uh, schizophrenia, things like that are more complex. I don't feel like I have the knowledge, and I also don't want to make it like a show, like exploit anyone's problems. So I try to keep it to quite common problems, and I also try to keep them. I don't want to trigger anyone's actual traumas by bringing up too dark stuff. So it's fairly everyday problems that I want to focus on. But there will be things like panic attacks and anxiety disorders. But I also don't want to. The cat will not diagnose anyone. That's not the point. The point is to find the core issues, things that have happened that have altered the character's way of thinking, rather than like, oh, this is a person who's bipolar. Or this is. I don't want to get into that because I don't feel qualified.
Sure. So, and I guess that kind of leads me into another question. As you play the game, will these characters have more events that maybe shift their thinking and their problem solving and kind of their personality?
Yes, like I write all of the dialogue in Twine. So I have a big tree for each session where you can get 9 different outcomes depending on which questions you ask.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a lot of things to write, but I hope I can make it. But yeah, in those different branches of this tree, you do discover different data points, and those will lead you to different ways of asking questions, etc. So you can treat someone faster or slower, better or worse, depending on what data you have collected from them. You will know different things about them, and perhaps that will also change how they react out in the real
Wow.
world, so other world.
Yeah. Wow. Well, am I'm blown away. I thought that this was an incredibly unique game, which is why I wanted to talk to you because I don't think I've seen anything like this, and I'm pretty excited that you're willing to take it on and share with it, share it with the world.
Well, thank you very much. So I thought it was a little bit slim, but I'm happy that you appreciate it. There are people who do find some value in it.
Yeah. My girlfriend thought that if you had maybe one or two more sessions, she probably would have stayed up last night playing the other sessions.
Oh, that's so cool. You have to send your regards.
I will. I'll let her know. Well, Lino, you've answered all my questions. I mean, do you have any questions for me, or is there any kind of like a shout out you'd like to do?
No, no, not really. I'm glad to have been able to speak to you, I suppose. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.